Good evening, everyone, to all our audience in South Asia and our audience who are joining us from different time zones as well. Hope everyone is having a good day so far and enjoying the sessions that we had in the morning earlier. So welcome to session 3 of South Asia Union Summit led by women. This session is titled Open for Business, Peace, Economic Growth, and Regional Prosperity. Our panelists will discuss why regional peace is a prerequisite for economic growth and why regions that have less conflict with their neighbors are more prosperous. I'm Lina Shabib. I myself come from Beirut, Lebanon, a place that's also known for conflict, and we hope to find more peace there. I am an education management consultant, and I have been working on education reform, women empowerment, as well as youth empowerment. And peace is definitely a common thread to all of us in this session. I would like to start by introducing our panelists for today. So our first panelist is Sarita Kumari. She's a philanthropist, environmental evangelist, and a peace activist. In addition to all these roles, she's also the director of the Ghanerao Hotels in India. We also have Ms. Fawzia Naqvi. She's an impact investment consultant and a former vice president of Soros Economic Development Fund. And I would like to also introduce our moderator for today. We have also Darshita Gillies. Thank you for joining. She's also one of our panelists, which I would like to introduce to you as well. She's the founder and CEO of Maanch, a multiple award-winning global impact platform for investors, corporates, and the philanthropy ecosystem. So welcome. And last but not least, our moderator for this session is Suparnaa Chadda. She brings 2 decades of media experience, and she is the founder of Suparnaa Media Network and the SABERA Awards. So thank you all, and I'm glad you are with us here today, and I'll give the mic to you, Suparnaa.
I think Suparnaa is still connecting. We'll just give her a minute there. But
Shruti,
Okay.
yes.
welcome everybody to the session. This is session 3 of the South Asia Union Summit led by women. And I'm very
Geo.
honored to have all of you here. I'm Ekta. I'm the founder of eShe for our viewers. And Suparnaa is going to take forward as soon as she logs back on.
It's okay.
Hi, one of the earlier panelists was also saying the Murphy laws at play. I guess it's also at play here. We're struggling with some internet issues, but we are here now. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, first, Ekta, for putting this together. You're an amazing woman to get 50 beautiful, amazing, inspiring women on one platform from 13 countries. That's no mean feat, no mean achievement for sure. And the fact that this particular panel is extremely interesting and also close to my heart, because right before we entered the studio, we were all discussing the fact that somewhere or the other, we have a connection with Lahore. All of us have that connection. Of course, my father was born in Lahore. My family is a migrant family from Pakistan. I had the opportunity to visit Pakistan in 2013, where I curated the South Asia Media Summit, something like this. And in Islamabad, we had, a 2-day summit like this, where essentially media personalities were there. And after working for several months, we finally reached Islamabad, right through the Quetta bombings there. But we continued with the summit. And before I was to take the stage, our counterpart in Pakistan was also anchoring the show along with me. And he was summoned, and he said that he was told that there is going to be a Maulvi Saab who's going to take the stage and read out, a couple of couplets from the Quran. And though I wasn't prepared for that, but I thought on my feet and I said, it's beautiful. Why don't we remember the higher power, whatever the higher power each one of us believes in? And after he read the couplets, I went on stage, and thanks to my guru, I had been oriented to the Saraswati Vandana, and I recited the Saraswati Vandana there in the jam-packed hall in Islamabad. And that has really become a tradition with me whenever I take the mic. So today as well, I'll start with the Saraswati Vandana. Ya kundendu tushara har dhavala, ya shubhra vastravrita, ya veena varadanda manditakara, ya shweta padamasana, ya brahma chitta shankar prabhutibhi, devai sada vandita, samam patu saraswati, bhagavati nishesh, jadyapaha. Essentially, we're praying to the Almighty, the Shakti, the goddess of knowledge, to dispel the darkness that resides within our hearts, and to illuminate it with the light or the wisdom of knowledge. And that's exactly what Ekta also hopes to do with connecting all these wonderful women from across the countries. And our particular topic here is about peace, prosperity, and trade. And we have these three very, very inspiring women with us. When I was reading about each one of them, I was literally very awe-inspired. And you'll get to know about them as they come on and share their stories individually. We'll start with Fawzia. Fawzia is joining us from New York right now. And she has, this distinction of being a woman, of course, of Pakistan origin, but having worked in India for almost a decade, funding impact entrepreneurs and working with women across the country. And that must have been a very, very unique experience. And not many women, or men for that matter, can boast of that, Fawzia. So let's start with that itself. What was your journey like? I think you'll probably have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you very much, and what an honor to be invited to this panel and this conference, and to join these wonderful women here. My journey definitely was unique, I would have to say, and its impact on me it was so huge that it's really difficult to encapsulate, and come up with a sort of succinct story here. It was a decade long. I was either naive enough or silly enough to assume that I could just work on India without any issues, and that naivety led to a certain determination that I was not going to let my origin get in the way of a good thing. And I was asked to build the India portfolio for Soros Economic Development Fund, which is an impact investment fund inside the Soros Foundation. And that journey started in about late 2006 and continued till 2016, till I left the organization. And it took me from South India to North India, and I went to places that a lot of Indians had not been to, especially in South India. And I met the most amazing people who were curious about about me because I was of Pakistan origin. But after we got past the curiosity, we were able to interact with each other as normal human beings sharing South Asian stories, I would say. And the impact on me personally comes from the fact that my mother was from Agra and my father is from a place called Amroha in Western UP. And I had never been to either of those places, and my work in India permitted me to also explore a personal journey. And that was extremely emotional, I would say, especially when I went to Agra and I was able to go visit the grave sites of my ancestors. And that kind of brought my 10 years together in a way that was such a aha moment. I didn't know whether to cry or to laugh or to hug my colleague who had got me there, because suddenly the purpose of my 10 years working in India kind of came together. That I felt like my ancestors had been walking with me throughout these 10 years and guiding me in ways that I wasn't aware of. And I realized what a powerful journey and powerful experience it had been to present myself to Indians who may never, ever have come across Pakistanis. And I'll just give you one anecdote of what I mean by that. We had traveled to Pune to visit farmers, to visit potato farmers, because we had invested in a company that was working with potato farmers. And we had gone to a village which traditionally is very conservative in many ways, including politically. And there was a bit of nervousness on the part of the team and the entrepreneur as to how I would be received once they figured out where I came from. And they weren't sure if that was an advantage or a disadvantage and how we would have to, get out of Dodge, get the hell out of there very quickly if things got tense. I had no such concerns. Maybe it was just my being naive again. We sat in the house of our host and he asked me, "Where are you from?" And because he could tell by the way I was speaking Urdu now and then that there was something off here and I wasn't quite from what he was used to. So I told him, and he was a little taken aback, and he said something negative, and I didn't react. And after that, he asked me to go to the rooftop with him. He wanted to show me the view. And we had a private conversation, and we ended up talking about how, and he apologized for his comment, and we talked about how we are human, and he told me how excited he actually was to meet me, and he ended up inviting me to his daughter's wedding. And they said that they would have a sari ready for me. His wife would help me tie it. He thought it was really funny that I didn't know how to tie a sari. And so we ended up in a joyful way. And it really showed me that a people-to-people contact, once people meet you and are able to talk to you, there's a lot of barriers that potentially fall. They may not, but in my opinion, everywhere I went in India, in North India, everybody told me where their parents came from and how much they wanted to visit their heritage in Pakistan. In South India, I was an entire exotic curiosity, and people were able to communicate and deal with me very much as a person, and they felt that they could learn a lot about something that they didn't know about. And for me, it was every trip to India. Once I crossed immigration, because the biggest challenge was getting the visa, and then slowing down my heartbeat as I came to the immigration officer and explained to them why I was there and who I was, and then hearing the stamp on my passport and being able to breathe. Once I was across that, then it was the most joyful, wonderful experience of my life. And I was very proud to build that portfolio, which has now grown and has become a phenomenal investment firm. And it was my life's work, and I am so grateful, less professionally, but mostly personally. And, having my ancestors, feeling my ancestors walk with me throughout my journey, I think that there's nothing that compares to that. And I was also born in Lahore, so there's a connection to all of you on that front. I'm sorry, not born in Lahore. I grew up in Lahore, and so very much connected on the India-Pakistan heritage and ancestry front. Thank you. I'll stop there.
I totally resonate with what you're saying, because I had a similar experience on your side of the country when I visited your country, and the intention of doing the summit there essentially was people-to-people interaction, and it was again very overwhelming for me as well, because my father always longed to go back to Lahore, but because of various reasons he couldn't. And I still remember we had visited in February of 2013, and he would tell me, get me the newspaper, get me the magazine. I want to see what is written there. I want to see what's happening there. And within 2 months, literally, of me coming back, he passed on to his next journey. So it was very emotional when I was there, and even more emotional for the fact that at least I could visit in his lifetime and I could share something with him. We also have an amazing personality, Sarita ji, who has joined us from her castle in Rajasthan. I was just in awe of her backdrop. Most of us living in the cities would imagine that to be a wallpaper, but the pillars that you see behind are actually the pillars and the columns of her castle. Sarita ji, you've had an amazing journey. You yourself say that aap Pakistan ki beti hain aur Hindustan ki bahu hain. So you literally called both the countries as your own home. And you've worked across the world. You've worked on sustainability, you've worked on women empowerment, you've worked across borders. Tell us a little bit about your journey as well. You'll have to unmute.
Yeah. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I was born and brought up in Pakistan, of course, and being a Rajput, and we don't get married in our own clan. So hence we did, while growing up, we did know that sooner or later we will be getting married, across the border, most probably. But at that time, I think it was much easier to just come across, because there were so many marriages taking place. My mother also is from Rajasthan and married into Pakistan. But lately, of course, things have changed and all. But when I got married, I was just 20 years old. And I came to this castle, and being in Rajasthan, it was really difficult, because they have a lot of their own culture and all, which we did not have in Sindh. And especially while growing up in Karachi, it was very, very difficult. It was like growing up in a convent, where we were there for about 16 years, from kindergarten till we did our A-levels. So, I was very, very close to my friends. And then getting married and coming here, it was quite a loss, because you miss your family, you miss your friends. So I was always looking for how to connect with back home, it was always, because those times the letters wouldn't go, we didn't have mobile phones, we just had trunk calls and all. So it was a very difficult period. But luckily, over the years, and especially the last 12, 15 years, when I joined my South Asian Women's Network, thanks to Dr. Veena Sikri, I met her in Udaipur, and she said, why don't you join SWAN, And at that time, we were like, we are connected with about 9 South Asian countries, which is Myanmar, Bhutan, Maldives, India, Pakistan, Nepal, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, all of. And every year we have a conference in each country. So we got to know the women there, the work they are doing, and those countries itself. So it made it really easy for us, since it was first-hand knowledge, because we were visiting those countries. And as we formed great friendships, we formed great network, because we could work. We were online with each other all the time. Now that there's a mobile, we know everything what is going on in these 9 countries, except the last 2, which is Myanmar and Afghanistan, which for the last, of course, few weeks, and Myanmar for the last 2 years, we have not been able to connect with our sisters there. But other than that, we have really had some super work going on, with environment, with craft, with health, with the women in conflict zone, women in media, and art and literature. So we have been working a lot in these fields. And in fact, I must say about this, a few years back, I was in Islamabad with my brother. And my brother, in fact, in Pakistan he's a director civil aviation's Pakistan, and he was posted there on the Islamabad airport. And I went to live with him for some time because I wanted to learn Persian. And while I was there, somebody suggested, why don't you go to Rawalpindi and see this place called Behbud, which I did. I said, yes, why not? I was free in the mornings. So I went. And I was expecting a place which would be, like a depressing kind of place, because they told me there are widows and orphan girls there, and, whose parents have been shot by the Taliban and so on. But they do fantastic embroidery. So I went there and I was simply amazed. That building was like life. There was bougainvilleas, there was color. The women were happy there. And the embroidery they were doing was exquisite. It was really exquisite embroidery they were doing, from Hazara, and then, of course, their own Pashto embroidery, everything from, so it was the shadow work of Bhavalpur, all kinds of different things were being made. I took lots of photographs and, as usual, was very excited about it. So I came back to Delhi and I told Jaya Jetli, because she was head of our craft sector in Swan. And I said, this is really beautiful. And she said, no, let's do something about it. It took us 8 months. In 8 months, those girls who had not even stepped out of their mohallas, rather, going to Islamabad, crossing that Grand Trunk Road from Pindi and going to Islamabad was a big thing for them. And who had just done, we got their passports done, the visas done. It took us 8 months, to host the whole thing. On 31st December, in that winter of Delhi, they reached Delhi in the night. And it was really nice because we hosted the girls together. So I got the best 12 embroidered women from Pakistan, and Jaya ji had the best 12 embroidered women from India, from Kashmir to Kutch to, Madhya Pradesh. And it was simply amazing. And we had this 17 days workshop exhibition at Delhi Hat, and it was appreciated like anything. It was like India, Pakistan. I wrote an article for Aman Ki Asha for it as well. And it was called Stitching Together Friendship. And it was so highlighted by everybody. The High Commissioner was there. Reena Dhaka helped us. Ritu Kumar helped us, design those things. And now Behbud is a part of our Swan as well. So whenever we have a Swan conference, Behbud is there to exhibit the things, and we help out all the women all the time. And similarly, we did it in Tariana as well, which is from Bhutan. I knew the Queen Mother quite well. And so we were taken to Bhutan for a conference on ecotourism, women in ecotourism, which sounds like really amazing, and we were all really looking forward to it. And as we started and we landed in Thimphu, the best part was that the hotel we stayed in was owned by 3 sisters. The girls there working were all girls. The cook, the chefs were girls. There was not a single man in that hotel, So it was really an amazing experience for all of us, and how safe Bhutan was, it was simply beautiful. But more than that was our ecotourism workshop, which we had. And that's when I met women from all over these fantastic 9 nations having their own resorts. From Myanmar to Bangladesh to Maldives, women owning them. So I had taken some pamphlets from Ghanerao, because since we run both our hotels under Ghanerao Hotels, we have a forest lodge and the castle itself. And it was really amazing learning just from the women, and we could interact more on it. We knew so much more about their countries, and because we all had a chance to talk about our countries and the resorts we were having and running them and all. So it was a great opportunity for us to know more about what is going on with everyone, and connecting, like what we are talking, women to women is so much easier. And in the same particular way, I met Dr. Vanna Shiva, from Navdanya in Bangladesh in the Dhaka conference. And she told me that, Sarita, there's Monsanto, the corn, and they've entered Rajasthan, and they're buying off the corn seed. And it's in your area because this is where we grow the yellow corn here. And sure enough, when I got back, I realized it is, and they were having all these pesticides. They were buying off the yellow seed corn, the natural one, from the market and introducing the American corn here. We got to know about it, and I wrote to Dr. Vandana Shiva. I said, yes, you're right. And she's simply amazing. Suparnaa, she is also one of the 7 most powerful women in the world. She started Diverse Women for Diversity in 1982. She was a part of the Chipko movement in the 70s, living in Uttaranchal. She runs Navdanya. Now that was also about 37 years old. And I'm also on the board of trustee now. Fortunate enough to be with her and work with her. But that is the first time she came to Ghanerao with her team. We had a 400 farmers meet here, just to tell them about what is happening and what this pesticide and the fertilizers could do to your soil. And we stopped it. We stopped the pesticides coming into Rajasthan at that time. And similarly, and of course, then I joined Navdanya because till then I was ignorant, I must say so. I had no idea about Monsanto and, all the hazards which it accompanies the name. But later on, yes, we got more and more involved in it. Both my sons we started organic farming. We started our own seed bank. In fact, it was the 25th seed bank in India. So now we are conserving organic seeds. And not just that, I take my sons that have gone for their courses. I take my sons' friends, even the politicians' sons. I take them to Navdanya for a course in organics, Yeah, you have to give in.
I think the politicians need that course much more than anybody.
True, Suparnaa. And because of that, Dr. Vandana Shiva had a conference in Delhi about 3 years back, and it was the health minister, the agriculture minister of India, and all this youth, who I invited, who had land holdings and who were politicians' sons and all, because the upcoming politicians, I would say. I said, you all have to be here because you all need to listen to what this is about. We'll do our bit, but if the next generation don't do it, then, and now you'll be surprised, my 4-year-old grandson planted trees when he was born. My son planted it, and Zorawar goes and is like, he's looking after the trees. He knows what's organic. On 16th October, he's going for organic course. He's 4 years old.
Super. With a grandmother like you, I'm sure he has a very, very...
And the mother, Suparnaa, because the mother's from Nepal and extremely conscious.
Wow.
So she's...
The grandmother is from Pakistan and the mother is from
Nepal.
Yes. How beautiful can this family get?
So when we had a wedding, when my son was getting married, we had guests like from India and from Pakistan, from Nepal, and all over really,
Now
Bharat,
where the grandson will find his bride.
I wonder.
All right, we'll come back to you. We'll come back. Such amazing anecdotes and stories you've shared with us. And Vandana Shiva, Dr. Vandana Shiva, of course, we are all very, very proud of her, of the work that she is doing. We'll bring at this point Darshita into the conversation. Darshita again has an awe-inspiring story. By her own profess, she says that she has risen from the bottom 1% to the top 1%, literally, and she's been across the world. And I want to hear it from you, Darshita. How was it, growing up in Mumbai, and how was it then launching a technology-enabled platform, Maanch, for impact investments? What has the journey been like?
Thank you. It's awe-inspiring just to be in the mix and in the stories. I feel like we need to stretch the hour even longer. I want to hear so much more from everyone. Personally, like you said, my life story is from the bottom 1% to the top 1%, and I say it's for 100% of the planet. It's actually a joy and touching for me today to take this call from India. I live in London. But I'm in Mumbai. I'm in the same home where I was born and raised when I was little. It's a little one-room apartment or a flat in busy Mumbai. And my brother, sister, and I, along with my mom and dad, we lived here until the age of 24. We slept on the same bed, shared the same toilet, showers, ate from same plates many of the days. And there were many days where we didn't even have money at home and food to eat. And I still remember we would collect plastic bottles and paper from the house and go to the Radiwala and sell it for some money. And as much as I would love to have a samosa or something more interesting, I knew I had to buy rice with the money, because rice feeds all the family and not just my little tummy. So that's like just a few stories from what it's like to live a life where there isn't much. But what was also beautiful is that when you're born in this context, you don't think that it's wrong or right. You just think everyone lives like this. I studied to become a chartered accountant, worked with Standard Chartered Bank, I worked with the board, and that opened up a whole new world of opportunities for me. Since working and living in India, I lived and worked in Jakarta, Indonesia. And for me, it was that time which was a really significant time, because I was pregnant at the time. And I asked myself with my husband, like, if we want our child to be bold and take risks and be adventurous, how are we modeling that as parents? And we both knew that we were in the safety of the job that was giving us everything we needed, but we both knew we had capacity for a lot more stretch. And it was also at the same time where I felt that when I was in Mumbai and India, and what was driving me then was, how do I get myself and my family out of this situation? And for me, it was like this breakthrough moment where I said, what if the whole world is my family? How would we have so many challenges on the planet? We have poverty, we have lack of education, we have climate change. I could list them all. So the big question for me was, what would I do to make the best use of my time to enable this whole planet that I call family? And when you ask yourself a big question as that, it is overwhelming, because you feel helpless. You feel like there is no other option or no other, like whatever you do is going to be insignificant. And it also gives you courage to start with something that you feel is right, something that can bring people together. And that's what I did. I started a tech company, and the first idea or the first solution was built in this very home with my brother, sister, and a couple of their colleagues. And I said, I have this idea. I want you to, build me a prototype that I can go and test out. And they did. In less than 3 weeks, I had a working prototype. I went back to London. I tested it out with 70 different philanthropists, investors, and each of them unanimously said, this is an amazing idea, go for it. And so 3 years ago, I started Maanch. Since then, obviously, we've won several awards. But the most fulfilling aspect of the Maanch journey, which is a tech platform to really help people who make financial decisions to take into account all the impact we have. At the moment, most financial decisions are made with risk and return. What is the risk and how much will I make back? The third dimension is, what is the potential to have the highest impact on people and planet around? Or what is the possibility of the most negative impact our solution might have? And these considerations always get left out, whether it's to do with philanthropy or with making any for-profit commercial investments. So the Maanch solution helps each of these stakeholders to really bring in that true impact lens and how things are done. Just to complete the story, like many of us here who have mixed backgrounds, I was born and raised in a very conservative Indian family, and at the same time, I fell in love with this amazing South African man who was born and raised in apartheid South Africa, born to English and Scottish parents, 18 years older than me, married once before. So it was a complete no from the word go. And I didn't want to do the typical Indian thing of running away and getting married, because that's what most of my role models, my cousins, stories we hear in movies tells us to do. If your parents don't agree, do this. Or you sacrifice and you marry whoever your parents say. And I wanted to find the and way. And I'm glad to say I have found the and way. My parents have turned around. They love him. We have a cocktail child who is, again, of mixed influence. And what is
I
beautiful...
love how you say it's a cocktail child.
Yeah. She is a cocktail, and it's beautiful to see how we can blend and create stories and live in harmony. And for me, this is what the summit signifies, is that we are all united. We can be in different countries, and we can have different cultures, and yet at heart, we all want to make a difference. And when we sit together and we have conversations, that's how we can make a difference. And I feel women in so many ways embody that skill globally.
Sure.
And that's what I love about what Ekta has brought together here, is the opportunity for different cultures to have a conversation.
Thank you, Darshita, for sharing your story with our audience. The audience themselves are saying that you're an extremely inspiring persona, as are our other panelists. Fawzia, I'll get back to you. So it is a no-brainer, literally speaking, that where there is peace, prosperity will follow, right? And we all want that people-to-people interaction. We all want to be able to know the other culture, rather than being stopped from interacting. But given the situation, we cannot hide away from the facts of the political situation, of the violence which is happening in conflict zones, of the recent stories that one saw, say, between Pakistan and Afghanistan, as far as that border is concerned. With this situation at hand, how can we then promote interaction, people to people conversations, trade? What do you think can be a possible solution to that?
What we're doing right here, I think, that has a huge impact on getting to know. I mean, I would never have come across, Sarita Appa or Darshita or you. I would just not have. Even in my investment work, I wouldn't have. So sessions like this are really, really key, and continuing this dialogue is really key. I just wanted to say one more thing, which I should have said before, was that when I arrived in India, time and time again, I was kind of breaking down this mental model that people had of what a Pakistani woman is. They just couldn't wrap their minds around me because of the professional position I held, because of the way I looked, the way I spoke. I was fluent in Urdu. I was, all of those things. It was mind blowing, especially for Indian men. It was mind blowing because they had a very different impression of what a Pakistani woman should be. So that's really breaking down barriers. I think, language is a great uniter. I would end up doing a lot of very difficult conversations with entrepreneurs and co-investors I would switch to Urdu or Hindi in the Indian context. And that changed the dynamic completely, right? There was what I kept on hearing was, oh, now we're building trust. आप तो हमें समझती हैं, आपको तो पता है, Fawzia ji, मैं आपको बताता हूँ, या मैं आप, it completely, and the tragedy of our two nations and our two peoples is that we are basically of the same soil. You know,
Absolutely.
we can call it foreign policy, but it's one landmass, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about it from a business point of view, if somebody is running a logistics company, you should be able to take your truck from Delhi to Lahore without any problem. It is one
Yeah.
landmass, right? So
Yeah.
it is a terrible tragedy that you have a border in Lahore that is slammed shut to you. I have no issue with borders, but the way we keep each other out, the way we otherize each other, the way we consider each other enemies, you know, the human, financial, social, cultural cost of that is not sustainable any longer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the world is in a mess, but I think for South Asia, how much longer can we bear the cost of conflict
Yeah.
as
I hear
opposed
you.
to, you know, idea sharing, talent sharing, culture sharing? We have to do it for the sake of our peoples. We have to do it, and I don't know when we're going to get courageous leadership that, you know, doesn't stoke fear and hate, but, you know, takes the courage to really to make the changes happen, just like we're doing here.
I
It's
hear you.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Because the very fact that the partition that happened, the reason why we are all here discussing this essentially was trying to divide people on the basis of religion.
Yes.
However, you know, on the basis of culture or language or the shared heritage, you know, it's just the same. When I visited Lahore, for example, I felt like I've come home. All throughout my growing up years, my father would speak in chaste Urdu or Punjabi or English. And you know, that is what I was greeted with there. So it didn't feel alien. Of course, the dialect slightly changes or your diction slightly changes in the way you pronounce things, etc., and all of that. But yeah, I hear you. And Sarita ji, आपने क्या experience किया? What is your experience across borders? Because you've been across in 9 countries. You have actually brought in, you know, embroiderers from Rawalpindi to Delhi. You've gone to Bhutan. So, and all throughout the existing political situation, what according to you can be a sustainable solution going forward for trade to happen between shared
Uh,
borders?
I'm glad you asked that, Suparna, because this is the most important thing is trade, because still finance is not in people's hand. You cannot even exchange ideas or travel or anything at all, So you need trade, you need the finance and the livelihood as well. And I had mentioned to you earlier also, Suparna, that's the reason my uncle-in-law, late Thakur Jaswant Singh, had started the train, the Thar Express, which started from Karachi to Jodhpur. And it was doing fantastically well, not just because of trade, which was why it was started, but people could travel. They could have for medical reasons, they could travel for tourism reasons, they could travel for religious tourism as well, because there are some sites in Pakistan, like next to Islamabad, they have Hinglaj Mata, one of the largest Hindu temple of Mataji in Balochistan. So we did have all these going on at that time, and this kind of soft diplomacy is very important. So first of all, we must concentrate on the visa issues. As soon as the visa issues, if they can, go online for it, for people to apply, that would be the first step, I think. Just making the easier. You go through the process. Even when we are going to a US or UK, everybody gives you a visa. They do a recheck on you. Everybody can do a recheck on you, but give the visas. Only when the visas are issued can people travel, and then everything is there. The trade is there, because that's what we are talking about. We are talking about the livelihoods of the regional places of all these border areas.
Correct.
Even between Rajasthan and Sindh, or for between Punjab, both the Punjabs and Pakistan and Sindh. And if we just had a soft border where people could just exchange their goods, it would be amazing. From onions were coming earlier, the sugar was going, the wheat was coming. In fact, the owners of Gul Ahmed Zaid told me that, Saita, we already had a go down in Amritsar. People just had to order. It was so much easier.
I hear
That's
you.
what we need. That's what we needed, for trade, for hotels. Now, if I have a hotel here and if I want to invite, in fact, we did that, we had a Bhakti festival in Ghanerao itself. We had about 100 people and we had people from 5 faiths. We had Salman Chishti and a lot of Muslims from, from Kashmir, and Salman himself came down from Ajmer
I will
Dargah.
take you up on your offer to visit you in the castle.
Yes,
all of us should.
please
You have
do
such
that.
wonderful stories to share. But I
Please,
also wanted
please do that.
to get Darshita's last comments in,
Yeah.
because she is somebody who's literally busted all kind of barriers,
Definitely.
man-made
Yeah.
quote-unquote barriers, whether it be socio-economic, caste, age, So Darshita, just last comment from you in terms of, you have said that South Asian women somehow have an edge, especially when it comes to, conflict zones or difficult situations. What is your perspective on that?
Personally, I think we are accommodating women, and at the same time, we are powerful women. So for me, this is where I feel our strength lies, is our ability to adapt and our ability to be warm and take care. And when it comes to situations of conflict, I work very closely with a dear friend and 3 times Nobel nominee, Dr. Sila Alworthy, and she outlines a wonderful plan called the Plan for Peace. And one of her biggest learning that I have had from reading the book, but also working closely with Sila, is when people prepare for war or conflict, it is their responsibility to ensure that they also create and put a budget and allocate resources to safeguard communities and to create architectures of peace. And I think women or allowing women to take the lead in building these peace architectures is the first step. That if there is conflict, there is a community that's connected that can take care of people who are most afflicted. And I think in times to come, there are going to be inevitable conflicts around resources. And I think the sooner we start, the better. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Darshita. Thank you, Fawzia. Thank you, Sarita ji. And what a beautiful panel this has been. And we're being joined by another beautiful woman from Berlin right now, though originally from Lebanon. And we all seem to share a similar kind of point of view in terms of women being the flag bearer of peace and prosperity, and probably, hopefully, trade in the future as well. Thank you all so much. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all. Thank you. And I would like to remind our audience that our hashtags for the summit are hashtag South Asian Union, hashtag SAUS 2021, and hashtag South Asia Peace. And lastly, hashtag Women for Peace. And it's such an honor to be part of this journey with this panelist and to witness the soft diplomacy, like Sarita has nicely put it. And hopefully it will break the barriers between borders. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.